Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, and welcome to the first Four Nations Faceoff edition of the Ice Guys for Wednesday, February the 12th. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you. And as you hear in the intro, the world of the NHL, no, it's the world of the Four Nations Faceoff this time around. We are talking Four Nations Faceoff, international best-on-best tournament action for the first time in 9 years, if you can believe it, since the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. So it's been a while since we have seen the best players represent their countries on a stage like this. Now, we were talking before the show started, Alex and I, it's not a full representation of the best players in the world because there's no Germany, there's no Czechia, and because of the political shit still going on overseas, there's still no Russia in this tournament. So it does feel like a piece of the puzzle is missing for this tournament. And from that standpoint, I'm excited about it now that game day has arrived, and I'm looking forward to seeing these four teams get after it. But I'll be honest, I'm excited and even more interested in the Winter Olympic tournament next year when we've got just a greater array of countries involved and an even greater representation of who truly the best nation is as far as hockey. But no, I'm excited now that it's here. I mean, these are indeed, without question, four of the best countries in the world in hockey, and Russia's in the conversation, Czechia's in the conversation, but to be quite honest with you, you can make a real legitimate case that the four best countries in the world right now when it comes to hockey are these four countries here in the Four Nations Faceoff. I think US, Canada, and Sweden are slam dunk top three, right now. Finland has really gotten better, and they are among one of the best countries in the world right now. So this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out, but the format's interesting, Alex, because it's 3 round robin, 3 preliminary round games for each team. They're going to play every team in the tournament once. And then, of course, they go right to the championship game after that. There is no semifinals. There is no quarterfinals. It's right to the championship game after the preliminary round on Monday. So you can't afford to fuck around here. You've got to be good, and you've got to try to bank points right from the onset. And the most important thing to note with this format is the point structure. You're awarded 3 points for a regulation win. You are awarded 2 points for an overtime or a shootout win, 1 point for an overtime or a shootout loss, and then no points for a regulation loss. So very, very interesting with the point structure that they have determined that they're going to go with here for the Four Nations Faceoff. So again, that's 3 points to a team that wins in regulation, 2 points to the team that wins in overtime or a shootout, 1 point for a team that loses in overtime or a shootout, and then no points for a regulation loss. So how the teams win or lose will play a big role and a big factor into who ultimately has the amount of points necessary to make the championship game and be in the top 2 at the end of the preliminary round. So very interesting format. We're excited that it's here. Alex, just your overall thoughts and your, excitement level going into the Four Nations Faceoff starting tonight.
Yeah, well, like I said, now that things are finally here, obviously it's something different to look forward to, right? Like that's the biggest thing. Now, it's well known that I'm not the biggest fan of international hockey, not the biggest fan of any kind of a tournament happening in the middle of the regular season, but this is something that's here to promote the game internationally. And I think really, at the same time, let's not downplay the importance of promoting the game here in North America, specifically in the United States, by having this format too. Of course, we have games on TNT, ESPN, ABC here in the States. So having people getting to see all of these different players, like I said, we talk about how disjointed national TV broadcasts are. There's certain guys that are playing in this tournament that you may have not seen on a national broadcast this season, or only seen once on a national broadcast this year. And so this is a whole, project to help grow the game, not just over, seas, but here in the States as well. Try and build these superstars. Like I said, first time in 9 years to have international play. So having these guys finally be able to say representing their respective countries, that's obviously a big goal in their careers as well. So I'm just interested to see how it all plays out. Like I said, the point system, which I'm sure that is definitely something that the NHL GMs are going to be looking at and saying, hey, when the next CBA comes up, is this something we're going to start implementing? Having that, tiered point system where you're, giving an extra point to the team that wins, but still keeping a point for teams that get into an overtime or a shootout. So there's a lot of things I'm sure that are, templates that we could possibly see used in the NHL regular season down the road. And like I said, we talk off air, for us as handicappers and bettors, for us to get, a feel of what these teams look like internationally now will give us something to look forward to next year. Which lines and which players gel together on these 4 teams, and 80 to 90% of these guys will be playing right around next year for the Olympics. What things carry over? What things what notes can we make mentally now that we could use to our advantage a year from now? So that's what I'm looking forward to. Just a lot of different intangibles that make this an interesting 2 weeks ahead.
Yeah, and the thing about this tournament is there's going to be people that didn't make their respective countries here and teams in this tournament that are knocking on the door probably of making it in a year from now. Like, what if Celebrini keeps on a trajectory that's strong? What if Bedard, who's really been good lately for Chicago, what if he keeps improving and he's going to be making a case to be on Canada in next year in the Olympics, even though he wasn't this year for 4 nations? So let's not assume these rosters are going to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Of course not.
We're talking about the U.S. goalies
play going into the Olympics. Yep.
The U.S. goalies with Wolf and Wall. I mean, they're young guys, but can they push? Hellebuck and Andre could. There's about 5 or 6 goalies that you can make a case for to be in a 3-man rotation for Team USA, and you can even say that same for Canada as well. So, like I said, it's a lot of interesting things, and this is just kind of, like I said, the appetizer to the main course of international play at the Olympics.
No doubt. We will begin by looking at just an overall view of the tournament. We're going to talk futures and props, tournament props, and there are a lot available, mostly FanDuel, DraftKings, Bet365, giving you a really good array of props, focusing mostly on. I've been burned with some of these tournaments before, and I know in the Stanley Cup playoffs, I've tried to bet some of these markets. I've been burned with some of the over goals, over assists, over points props in the tournament for some of these players. So what I decided to do was just mostly stick to taking some plus money shots with top point scorer, top goal scorer in the tournament for not only their respective teams, but for the tournament as a whole. So there are a few that I definitely landed on. Of course, when you start by looking at the 2 teams tonight that are dropping the puck on this tournament, Canada and Sweden, for me, there's 3 clear choices. I mean, for top goal scorer, I think Nathan MacKinnon, 14-1 is what I was able to find for top goal scorer in the tournament, plus 550 to be the leading goal scorer for Canada. He is going to be on a line where he's going to be the predominant shooter on that line. Let's be honest with who he's playing with. He's also going to be on that vaunted number 1 power play unit for Canada, which is on paper to me the best power play unit that any country will have in this tournament. It's sick. It's absolutely insane that you have a Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, Reinhart, and Makar power play unit. It's absolutely absurd. So McKinnon, I think, will be the shooter. So for the goal scorer prop standpoint, I like him. Reinhart, I think, is worth a look. 500 plus 500 to be the leading goal scorer for Canada. 10-1 for the tournament leading goal scorer. My number 1 Canada tournament prop, it's Cale Makar, and in the point scorer market is really what I like. I went bigger on this than I normally do for player props and pre-tournament props like this. I really think Cale Makar, top team point score at plus 900 is incredible price for a guy that has not only what he's been doing lately, which is a big component of this. He's been on an absolute heater in the NHL with Colorado coming into this tournament. But again, he's going to be on top pair. He's going to be on quarterbacking every single Canada power play on that vaunted PP1 unit for Canada as well. So, Cale Makar plus 900 to lead Canada in points and 22-1 for Cale Makar to lead the tournament in points, I truly believe is live, and certainly more live than those prices would indicate. So probably among my favorite props right there. Cale Makar, top point scorer for Canada plus 900, top point scorer overall for the tournament at 22-1. For Sweden, Willie Nylander, I think, to be plus 550 is actually solid for a guy. He's going to be shooting the puck quite a bit. We know his breakaway ability, and if you get him on a breakaway, look out. He's going to score more often than not, and he's shown it this year in the NHL with the Leafs. He's definitely worth a look. I think Jesper Bratt, from a point scorer standpoint, plus 800 to lead Sweden in points, 40-1 to lead the tournament in points. Jesper Bratt, another guy heating up before the tournament started with the New Jersey Devils in the NHL. So Jesper Bratt, to me, worth a look. Lucas Raymond is a down the board kind of shot that I think makes a lot of sense. 10-1 with the way he's been rolling with the Detroit Red Wings and the confidence he's been playing with entering the tournament. 35-1 to lead the tournament in goals, but more so, especially the top goal scorer for Sweden at 10-1. I think worth a look there. We'll start with those two teams. They're the teams getting underway tonight. Alex, is there anything Canada or Sweden in the tournament props that you're looking at?
No, nothing as far as props and futures go. Like I said, this is something that I kind of dabbled the least on. I looked a little bit more into some of the individual games, which I thought was fascinating. The entire blanket of games, 6 games, they all have lines for. So there's a couple of things that I dabbled in with that. But as far as futures and props, stuff that I looked for involved the other two countries, mostly the United States. So nothing here with Canada and Sweden as far as futures or props.
Yeah, Kempe, look, a lot of people like Kempe too, but Kempe was not in the greatest of form. That's the only thing. Now, that's NHL, but I'm just saying he was kind of cold with the LA Kings before the tournament started. But I get it. I mean, he when he's got it rolling, he can absolutely lead Sweden in goals in this tournament, no doubt. So it's going to be interesting to see. But the only thing that I'm hesitating on is his form with the Kings leading into this tournament. He wasn't in the greatest of form, but that can change in a hurry. There's no doubt. And keep in mind, power play time is going to be important. And as Rich H alludes to, there may not be as much power play time here for Kempe in this tournament. As far as U.S. and Finland, of course, they play tomorrow night head-to-head. Props that I'm interested for them, or that I took with those two teams. Kyle Connor, I think, look, I know Austin Matthews and Jack Hughes are ahead of Kyle Connor for U.S. goal scoring. I'll take Kyle Connor at a better price over those two guys. It's that simple. People are sleeping on Kyle Connor. He's had an absolutely phenomenal season with the Winnipeg Jets, plus 700 to lead the U.S. in goals, 22-1 to lead the tournament in goals. Both great prices, worth a shot, in my opinion. Gensel, top point scorer for the team, 14-1, 40-1 for the tournament. And yeah, Zach Werenski, I'm gonna take a small dabble here. My concern is he's been a nationwide arena warrior this year. A lot of his production's been in Columbus. I was joking with Jonathan Davis because we both think there's some value with Werenski. Can we somehow trick him and put him in some sort of hypnosis before this tournament, make him think that he is playing in the at Nationwide Arena as opposed to TD Garden or Bell Center for this tournament? Because if he did, he'd probably light it up because he's been absolutely a monster with production at home. But 25-1 to lead the U.S. in points, 75-1 to lead the tournament in points. So you're talking about massive plus prices there. And then for Finland rather, because I don't think they're staying long in the tournament. And I hate saying that because Finland was the team I had set on taking a flyer with to win this tournament. But I hate their situation on the blue line. I just hate it. And we'll get into that more when we talk USA versus Finland, but they're decimated. They had 3 guys that were supposed to be projected starting blue liners for them out due to injuries. And of course, the massive one being Miro Heiskanen of the Dallas Stars. And I'm not sure that they're going to be able to overcome that. So that's why part of the thinking here with these tournament props, Alex, is you want to be taking players that you think are going to win the tournament or at least get to the championship game. So they're going to get that extra game to cash some of these props and have a chance to be the top point scorer and a better chance to be the top goal scorer, that kind of thing. So that is important as well. But Barkov's the one I took for Finland, because I think he's going to have his hand in a lot of different things, and the point score prop to lead the team in points is something I took with him for Finland in this tournament. I like Rantanen as a player, but here's another guy that was kind of cold with Carolina, coming into this tournament. So that's why I stayed off that.
And that's the thing you worry about too, right? And like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about it as we get into the game matchup. But when you have a situation with cluster injuries, we talk about it during an NHL regular season, but certainly in a tournament situation, you wonder if Finland comes out flat early, where, does the motivation just kind of just roll off? How do they go about navigating these games? Or do they realize that because they have such an issue on the back end, hey, we got to change our style. We got to try and play up tempo and outscore everybody. And then that could create a lot of open-ended, chances for props. So that's the thing that's really kind of tough to pinpoint when you have that kind of a situation involving them.
And then some small MVP shots to be the most valuable player of the tournament. It's funny, I didn't take any goalies. I didn't bet any goalies. I didn't bet any Canadian. I wouldn't bet any Canadian goalies because I think there's question marks about all of them. I could certainly make a case for Hellebuck if the U.S. wins, that he's obviously going to be the MVP for them. No question about it. It's interesting that we'll talk about it. We weren't sure where Sweden was going to go with their goaltending. We thought maybe Ullmark, but no, it's going to be the Gus Bus, Philip Gustafsson, at least to start the tournament tonight against Canada. So I didn't go with any goalies for MVP, even though obviously the goalie, when he's awesome in a tournament like this, he's very capable of winning an MVP. But in order of biggest bet, biggest position to smallest position, I went McKinnon MVP 10-1, Cale Makar MVP 22-1 for Canada, Jack Eichel USA 21-1 MVP, Kyle Connor USA 26-1 MVP, William Nylander Sweden 27-1 MVP, Bratt 47-1 Sweden MVP, Lucas Raymond 50-1 Sweden MVP, and then the only one for Finland to me was Barkov 46-1. So those were just some small MVP shots there with those players. All right, so that's futures and props. Let's get into the games and break them down. We're going to just do both games to start the tournament tonight. Canada, Sweden. Thursday, USA, Finland. We'll do both of those games here on this show. We will begin with Sweden and Canada. Every game in this tournament right now to begin these next first few days is at the Bell Center in Montreal, and then they turn to TD Garden next week. That is going to be the way it unfolds here. But we've got Canada minus 240. Home, I shouldn't say, well, it is kind of home favorites, I guess you could say, because it's in Montreal. It's definitely going to be a home ice advantage for Canada. Minus 240 favorites, 6 the total. This total, man, I saw it Monday at Bet365. The over 5.5 was minus 120. And I said, you know what, I'll bet it now. And now all of a sudden it's 6 minus 120 at that same book. And I'm seeing 6s and even some 6.5 starting to pop up. But 6 is the predominant number right now with the total here in this game. I think the biggest thing you look at with this game is Canada and this vaunted power play. I keep fixating on it because it could be a historically good international tournament power play unit. The one that's got Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, Reinhart, and Makar on it. Like that's sick. That's ridiculous. If you're Sweden and you're their head coach, you've got to obviously emphasize discipline here. You can't be taking, no team, can be taking penalties here throughout this tournament against Canada. So that is going to be important. If Sweden is going to win tonight and be competitive, they've got to try to play this at even strength. It at least gives them a puncher's chance here to match wits here with Canada. You put that power play to work, and it could be trouble, and it could be trouble for any team. Now, this is the first game of the tournament, so even though on paper you've got this unbelievable 5 that Canada and John Cooper can put out there, you do worry that maybe it does take a game, for that group to maybe gel a little bit, get that chemistry before maybe they really lift off, if you will, as far as their power play production. But still, I don't think you want to tempt fate if you're Sweden. Be disciplined, stay out of the damn penalty box. It's going to give yourself the best chance to win. Goaltenders, as we mentioned, we thought maybe Linus Ullmark would be the goalie for Sweden, but it won't be. It is, in fact, Philip Gustafsson getting the nod here for Sweden. For Canada, you could have went so many different ways, but Jordan Binnington will get the start. Obviously, he will be the guy for them in this tournament, barring him struggling, I guess you could say, significantly. The biggest fear, and that's the biggest question on this Canadian team. I think they're extremely loaded on the top 6. I do think the bottom 6, the U.S., can match them there. And some of these other countries could, but top 6, I think Canada's got a clear edge over everybody, as far as the forward group. The defense is pretty good. There's no doubt with what they've got back there. I mean, you look at what they've got, certainly top six is loaded. Power play is going to be absolutely incredible, as we know. And that blue line, 1 through 6, that's pretty damn good, too, with Devon Taves, Cale Makar, Josh Morrissey, Colton Parayko, Shea Theodore, and Drew Doughty, who enters this tournament here for Canada as a late addition. And like I said up front, Reinhart, McDavid, Marner, Crosby, McKinnon, Stone. I mean, my gosh, that top six is just, it's sick. Marchand, Point, and Jarvis is your third line. Hagel, Cirelli, and Travis Konechny, who will replace Sam Bennett, it looks like, in the lineup tonight for Canada on that fourth line. But the goaltending is the biggest question. That is by far the biggest question and concern of this Canada team. Because do I know I'm getting Jordan Binnington 2019? Big game Jordan Binnington just played an incredible season, leading the St. Louis Blues to the Stanley Cup. Or am I going to get Jordan Binnington here flirting around a sub 900 save percentage here in 2024-25? What's it going to be? And that's obviously something that's your biggest fear here when it comes to Canada. For Sweden, this is a team that I think, when you look up front, the thing with Sweden in the past is you always said, yeah, they really can't always match firepower, especially of a team like Canada. That might be different this year. But when you look down the middle, and obviously Canada down the middle, it's insane how good they are. There are some big-time question marks with your top two centers. Mika Zibanejad has not had a great season with the New York Rangers. We know that. Elias Pettersson's been missing in action. There's been nights you can't find him with a telescope on the ice. Are you going to get these guys engaged? Are you going to get these guys locked in, dialed in, and playing to the level they're capable of, Zibanejad and Pettersson? Or are they going to be, the guys that have been meandering throughout the course of this NHL season? That is significant, especially with those two down the middle. Now, on the wing, I like them. I like some of the firepower they have. There's no doubt for this Sweden team. And they've got more offensive punch, I think, than they've had at previous best-on-best international tournaments. Kempe, Nylander, Raquel, Bratt, Forsberg, Lucas Raymond. You put Lucas Raymond on a third line to start this tournament here for Sweden. You're talking about a guy that's had, an outstanding season here for the Detroit Red Wings, a really good career there so far. So there's no question that Sweden's got more offensive punch than they've had in the past. And it's certainly offensive punch that could, trouble, Canada if goaltending of Jordan Binnington is a little off the mark here in this one. So the way I approached it here as far as side or total, this is one where I think that it's always dangerous because there could be a feeling out process. Maybe both teams are going to just, wade into this game slowly. And that's the biggest determining factor. We don't have any first period trends that we obviously use big time with first period totals in the NHL because this is the first game, with these two teams. But what I do like here is I did bet over 5.5. I would recommend it at over 6 still. I think there is goals. It just may take a while. It's one of those deals where I could see it being scoreless for like the first 10 or 15 minutes, and there's a late first period goal, and it just opens things up. And then the offensive talent takes over, and then the team that's trailing has to push because you can't screw around. There's only 3 preliminary round games, and then it opens up. What I would say is live over is going to be worth a look here, especially if it starts off very slowly. So I am on the over 5.5. Earlier in the week, I would still like it here over 6. I'm taking both teams over their team total. And the one I really like is Sweden, believe it or not. And I hate to upset my fellow Canadians here, but I got over 2.5 plus 110 with Sweden's team total. I think there's a real good chance they can get 3. I mean, Binnington, the majority of his starts from January till now in the NHL, he's given up 3 or more often than not. So I think when you look at that team total, I thought 2.5 with Sweden over. Was a really, really good look at plus 110. I think Canada can go over theirs as well. I did bet at 3.5 minus 130. 4-3 Canada is a very plausible final score. I'd love that, certainly, as someone with a piece of the full game over and both team totals over. But that's the way I approached it. Canada's not a team I'm taking at any point on the money line in this tournament because minus 240, they're going to be well priced. And even the U.S. to a lesser extent, they're not going to be teams I'm looking to take on the money line. You got to get more creative with them. You take them first period puck line, maybe. You take them their team total instead. You're going to have to get a little bit creative, if unless you want to lay a monstrous price with Canada or the U.S., which I do not. Alex, what do you think here for the Four Nations Faceoff tournament opener tonight, Sweden and Canada?
So the biggest question we've been asking ourselves and each other for the last couple of weeks is, what do we get defensively in these games? Do we see an all-star game, or do we see more of a traditional Olympic-style international game? I think we get a little bit of both. I think it starts with an all-star game kind of tempo.
And do we see a ton of shot blocking, right? Knowing that the bigger prize for a lot of these guys, as great as it is to win with your country and represent your country, is the Stanley Cup. And what if you get busted up blocking a shot in this tournament, and down the drain goes your season to try to win a Stanley Cup with your NHL team, right?
Exactly. Even though you have some of the best defenders in the game and best goaltenders in the game, but how far are you willing to lay it out on the line for in essence, a made-up tournament? That is the question. I think we will see the pace of an all-star game here early, like I said, because there's just question marks all over the place. I think, like I said, we got two sets of heavy groups, quality forward too. Like I said, only had a couple days to really practice and gel together. So, how well we're going to see these power plays, convert. Somebody in the chat said, no overpassing. That needs to be a sign on all four dressing rooms as far as I'm concerned, because we know the talent's there. Okay. These are all four, all eight, if you really look at both power play lines for all four teams. 8 power play groups that are very talented. But if you are passing too much, it'll kill any group. We know this all too well from what we see during the season. So that is going to be a huge key. Like you said, the two goalies that are involved here scream over. If we're looking at Gustafsson and Bennington in the regular season, we're talking about overs, especially if you're teetering between 5.5 and 6. So I did play over 5.5 yesterday. And then I added a little bit more of 6. I got plus 105. I'm seeing now where 6 is at minus 120, 125. I like it up to that point. As far as goals early in the game go, seeing first period overs around minus 130 up to 137. Obviously, we can wait for that. And I definitely want to wait for that because, like I said, I think we do get a little bit of a feeling out. If it happens, it's going to be early, first 5 or 10 minutes within the game. So we should be able to get, if not 1.5 at a big plus price, maybe even a half a goal once we get halfway into that period. That's what I'm targeting. And like I said, once we get the first goal, once we get out of the intermission, I think teams will make their adjustments, and then that's when we see the avalanche of goals coming forward. So I love this over here. 6 minus 120 is widely available. I would say grab that. But zero in and look after the 10-minute mark for maybe a goal in the first period or first period over live, adjusted to a half a goal.
No doubt. I think because if this was a 2-week tournament like you get for the World Hockey Championship or the Olympics or the World Junior Championship, where you had 4 or 5 games, and in the World Hockey Championship, there's 2 rounds of preliminary before you get to the medal round. I think this could, if that was the format, we could see a slower type of game here. Ease your way into it. You can't screw around here. You've got 3 games, and if you go 0-1 tonight and lose, you're pretty much in must-win territory in your next game, or you're not going to the championship game. So I think there's got to be more aggression, and especially to get the early lead. There's no doubt, whereas I think I see this too, right? In these preliminary round games, just because you've got to get off to a good start and you got to try to win these games, I think there'll be more higher scoring games than not with the preliminary round. Then when we get to the championship game, obviously, that's the one that's probably going to be lower scoring and defense will take over. And then people will want to block shots a little bit more when they're that close, in the championship game. So that's kind of the way I see it.
Or maybe we break it down like this. Do we break it down in the 2 Montreal games and then the Boston game? Because the Boston game, obviously, we'll know at that point, where everything stands as far as we might already know who's in the championship game at that point, potentially, right? Yeah. Say if you have Canada, U.S. win 2 games, I think that would pretty much be enough to where they just need to get 2 points to move on. So that's the other thing that we have to look at too, how things will develop after game 1 and after game 2, as far as the scenarios of what goes on, what happens next, because there could be some bets that, derive from that. If there, ends up being some kind of tiebreaker scenario, certain things. So that's another thing. More bet chances and opportunities will open up as this tournament moves on based on how things settle in. So,
no doubt. I think that's something to keep in mind. No question. Like I said, it'll be interesting. This is definitely something that your eyes will tell you, how to approach things. Certainly from a live betting standpoint, it will throughout this tournament. As far as player props, you guys know, Obviously, player props are a big part of this show when it comes to the NHL breakdowns throughout the season. No, we're getting involved here, and there's some really good value here in this game. I talked about on Sweden. Lucas Raymond at plus 375 to score a goal is phenomenal value. Jesper Bratt plus 400, playing well for Sweden entering this tournament. Even Kempe, for those that like Adrian Kempe, FanDuel's got him at plus 340. Amazing value. For obviously a guy that's capable of scoring goals. Even Nylander, who's supposed to be one of the top goal scorers for this Swedish team, plus 290, nearly bargain bin territory. And then for Canada, I got to take Cale Makar plus 440. It's a great price. He's been shooting the puck a lot. And apparently from a lot of the quotes I've heard, and Rich H put a good quote in, we're going to hope Cale shoots the puck more. Doesn't maybe defer as much, to passing it to one of the forwards. So, and with his production coming into this tournament, he was on a roll, and he was scoring goals left and right for Colorado before this tournament. So that's a good one. Assist prop. I like the Jesper Bratt assist prop too, because this is a guy that's really been facilitating as well, and that's almost plus 200. So that's one I would look at. McKinnon to get a goal's not, best price, but plus 185. He's going to be, a willing shooter often on that line, so worth a shot. And here's something that I've decided, I'm going to do this right away in the first game, and I'm going to take it every game. And there's a chance I think eventually we will see that this pay off potentially. It's taking every player on that Canada PP1 unit to get a point. Putting it in a parlay, it's plus 365 at FanDuel. That's Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, Reinhart, and Makar, each to get a point plus 365. That's a small bet, worth a shot. Put it all together in a parlay, each to get a point. We'll see how it goes. And this is something I plan on coming back to, even if it doesn't cash tonight. Take it again when they play the U.S. Take it again when they play Finland in their final game on Monday. So that's definitely going to be an approach that I'm going to look at here. Oh, prop-wise, Alex, anything for you in this game?
No, nothing in this game prop-wise.
All right, Thursday night, we got Finland and U.S. In the Thursday night Four Nations preliminary round matchup. USA minus 340 favorites, 5.5 the total, shaded to the over. Here in this game. Finland is a team that will play hard. Finland is a team that will try to play with great structure. We'll try to slow this game down. We'll try to play with such great defensive mindset. But sometimes you don't have the personnel defensively to play that way. They're going to want to, and they're definitely not going to want to get in a trade scoring chances type of game here with the United States. There's no question. But when you look at the Finland blue line, we knew it was trouble, the last couple of weeks when we started to see it. It started with obviously the Miro Heiskanen injury. Massive that Finland is going to be without him. Then Rasmus Ristolainen, Joni Hakanpää, two guys that were expected to be starting on this blue line for Finland, also ruled out due to injuries. That's 3 of your top 6 defensemen expected to play in this tournament for Finland that are not going to play. And obviously Miro Heiskanen's the loss that I just don't know if they're going to be able to overcome it. Now, I don't want to make a big deal out of Matan Palo, who's going to be on the third pair for Finland, and Vakanainen. But my goodness, my first thought when I see that third pairing on defense for Finland, opposing teams are going to be able to forecheck the fuck out of that pair. It's just the way I think it's going to be. Matan Palo's only played a handful of games at the NHL level with the Ottawa Senators, and Vakanainen's been basically just a depth defenseman. And this is not the NHL anymore, Alex, where your third pair is going up against a third and fourth line in the NHL that doesn't have a lot of punch to it, or not as much offensive punch. What's that third line for the U.S. in this tournament projected to be? Oh, yeah, JT Miller and company on that third line for the United States. Well, those are guys that score 30 goals. Your third and your fourth line for the United States has guys that can score 20, 30, 40 goals. And you're asking Vakanainen and Matan Palo, these two very inexperienced at the NHL level defensemen, to try to shut down the depth forward lines of the United States. That's not an easy ask. That is just not at all an easy ask for Finland here in this tournament. And that's the biggest fear I have for them right now, is just that lack of defensive depth they have now because of all the injuries. more so than anything, Miro Heiskanen, who is just, almost irreplaceable for this team, considering, what you're going to have trying to replace him. So there's definitely some concerns there on the Finnish side of things. I think another thing too, when you look at this team, there's a lot of good pieces. I like the forward group. There's still, if Mikko Rantanen can bounce back from the struggles he's had so far as a member of the Carolina Hurricanes and get it going, then obviously it makes them better offensively. There's no question. There's a lot to like up front as far as Finland is concerned. But my goodness, the defensive depth is certainly a major concern I have for them heading into this tournament. No question about that. But there's Lehkonen, another one, who's really played well as well for Colorado before this tournament. So, lots to like there. The goaltending for them, we'll have to wait and see how it goes for them. But, some question marks there. But I think the defensive, the blue line and the potential concerns with that second pair and especially that third pair, it's the biggest concern that I have for Finland going into this tournament. Meanwhile, you look at the U.S., I know I said Canada's power play one is pretty damn good. USA's power play one's pretty freaking good too. I mean, it's not that far behind with what they've got on paper for that number one power play unit without question. So, going to be some obviously concerns too when you play the U.S. that if you're not playing with great discipline, you might be in some trouble, considering you're going to have to deal with a Matthew Tkachuk, Jack Hughes, Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, Adam Fox, top power play unit for the United States. And that is something that definitely would concern you a little bit here in this situation. Of course, as far as the goaltending is concerned for Finland, Jussi Saros, Kevin Lankinen, of course, projected to be, the main goalies for this Finland team. We'll have to see if we get confirmation who's going to start. Remember, this game's Thursday night, so we may not know that right away. You look at Lankinen, he's had a really good season with the Vancouver Canucks. There's no question. I would almost favor him over Saros. Crazy to say that, but if you're going to look at NHL, Saros has just been not had his best year, with the Nashville Predators, obviously, and now you're facing some of the best scorers and best offensive talent in the entire world in this tournament. With a guy that's had one of his worst seasons in recent memory, Jussi Saros, I'm not sure you'd have, all kinds of, confidence right now in him. So the only thing I've locked in this game is the U.S.'s team total over. That's it. I think that's the way to – I think they win the game, but minus 340 is insane. Why not just take their team total? I think that is just the best way to go. 4 goals is achievable here for this U.S. team. Obviously, their offense is going to be – and what I like about the U.S., and this is where they might have an edge, Alex, as far as the forward group is concerned, their 4 lines of depth, I think, just a little better maybe on paper than Canada. Canada's loaded in the top 6. No one can match on paper the top 6 of Canada. But I think that third line and that fourth line for the U.S. can at least match Canada and maybe even better Canada in the bottom 6 forward group. And I think that is the great testament to how far USA Hockey has come now in these last few years, where they have ascended now to being almost on an equal playing field, if you will, with Canada as far as success is concerned. So USA team total is the way I went. It's the only bet I've locked in here so far for this game on Thursday. But that's the approach for me, because certainly we don't want any part of laying the big monster number with the U.S., but you can get their team total in a pretty good range here, over 3.5 at around minus 138 at Pinnacle. It's a pretty good price, and certainly a better price than anything you could get with money line or even puck line. Because the one thing I could see here too is Finland will try to play tighter, and obviously keep this a 1-goal type of margin. I just don't think, Alex, that they've got the blue line depth to be able to do so for a full 60 minutes. So USA team total it is for me. Alex, what do you think Thursday night, Finland, USA?
Yeah, I mean, we agree completely. Like I said, Finland with the injuries on the blue line, that's just going to really hamper them. And like you said, U.S., they have a balanced lineup that looks like an NHL lineup, right? Like where Canada's team is just, like you said, it's just the best of the best. It's a bunch of all-stars. It's, 12 top line forwards, 6 top line defensemen. But you look at that bottom 6 for the Team USA. You got guys in there like Brock Nelson and JT Miller, who, yes, they play top line roles with their respective teams. But
30 goal scorers. And now Montempalo and Vakanainen going to have to shut them down. Good luck. Yeah.
But their style of play also dictates where they can be those third, line, fourth line bumper guys, those guys who can really shut you down defensively, play physical as well. And that's going to be the key to, taking on a Finland or a Sweden. Take the body, be more physical. Even Canada, be more physical. So U.S. has a balance of quality scorers. Any of those guys can light you up and score, but they have a good enough mix of grit and balance in that forward group where, like you said, I think they're going to make mincemeat out of Finland. I actually went over 5.5 yesterday. I still like that up to a minus 130, 135. I mean, we're only betting a few games here over the next couple of weeks, so we can take some liberties and go a little bit higher with some juice here that we wouldn't do during the regular season. Also on first period over pregame, 1.5 minus 112 available at FanDuel. And like I said, you can't look at land 340 or looking at regulation or puck line here, but BetMGM has team to score and empty net goal. I have USA plus 180. So I think this could be a game where it's 4-2, 3-2, 4-2, and then Finland pulls the goalie, USA pouts one. So plus 180, that's kind of my way of backing USA to win the game, would be US to score an empty net goal, plus 180 to go with the overs.
That's a good prop to consider. There's no doubt when it comes to getting that empty net goal, especially if you think the team that you're taking is going to have that late lead and have that opportunity, obviously, with the opponent pulling the goalie. So it makes a lot of sense. Prop-wise for this game, and by the way, we're going to do, personally for me, when we do bargain bin special and best bets, I'm going to give you a Wednesday and Thursday best bet, a Wednesday and Thursday bargain bin special. I'm going to give you one for both of these games, bargain bin from each game and a best bet from each game. For these two games, since obviously we're doing both games on today's show, and we won't be back with you until Saturday at noon Eastern for our next show. But I'm going to save it for that segment. What I will say is there are definitely a couple of good player props that I'm looking at here. As far as Finland goes, you look at this game coming up on Thursday. I think one of the things that stands out to me is, we know this is a country historically, that's been very, very good as far as defensive play, but don't underestimate what some of their offensive talent is capable of doing. And a couple that stand out to me just as far as pure value, if you want to go down the board as far as player props here, I'm seeing even and he's going to be out on the power play and shooting the puck a lot. Even a guy like Patrick Laine, plus 400 at FanDuel to score. Barkov, the captain, plus 430. Arturi Lehkonen, who's been just outstanding, especially of late for Colorado, plus 460. Look at some of these value price. Rope Hintz, who is obviously great at both ends of the ice, but we know he's got offensive finish, no pun intended, plus 500 at FanDuel. And then for the U.S., you flip it around. Teravainen, plus 650. Alex knows, with Chicago, how capable he is. There's some really good prices and with some of these Finnish forwards up front. For the United States, I even think, even though he's not bargain bin price worthy, plus 200, I think that's still a phenomenal price to get 2-1 on Kyle Connor. I mean, with just what he's been doing for the United States, for the Winnipeg Jets this year, and what he might be able to keep going here for the United States as far as just putting the puck in the net is concerned. Dylan Larkin, plus 410. How good has Dylan Larkin been since Todd McClellan took over in Detroit? I know he's down on the fourth line for this U.S. team, but my goodness, it's a guy that's been filling it up, plus 410. Can't hate that. JT Miller, plus 450. There's good value here. Werenski, even plus 500 if he shoots the puck. So there's some good value as far as player props in that game and goal props that definitely I'm going to peruse the board. I've already picked out some bargain bin stuff for this game, but there's definitely a lot that kind of stands out in that department. All right, great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. We appreciate it. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. And a reminder, too, make sure you sign up at patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. Again, as far as the Patreon page is concerned, we will have you covered for the Four Nations Faceoff. So you're used to seeing the NHL betting card every day, sides, totals, player props posted on the page. We will have a Four Nations Faceoff betting card posted each and every day, each and every game day during the tournament. Again, sides, totals, player props. We'll be posting today's after the show. So make sure you check that out. And again, goalie charts, totals charts, bonus content. And remember, tons of more live exclusive betcasts on Patreon only will be available to our members throughout the rest of the season as well. All that and more, just $10 per month. Your subscription goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going. So make sure you sign up, just $10 per month, patreon.com/iceguys.
Also, check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. 1 week starting today, you get 22% off. That's a price we didn't set. The store set that, but we have 22% off savings. If you go to the homepage, click on the redeem button, add everything to your cart, 22% will be taken off your checkout. That's 7 days starting today. 22% off right now. All merch in stock as well. That's iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
There you go. Make sure you check out the Ice Guys store. Get that 22% off all the gear and the merch over at the Ice Guys store. All right, bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Tailgaters Social, and a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page. Everyone loves a perfect pair. Bacon and eggs. Thunder and lightning. Mario and Luigi. A hot dog with fries. Ian and Alex B. That's right. Everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
Shout out to all our great sponsors, including Boston Hemp Inc. Get 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code IceGuys at bostonhempinc.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night. Four Nations Faceoff bargain bin special of the night. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for bargain bin special?
All right, so we're going to tomorrow's U.S.-Finland game, and I'm looking at JT Miller, Team USA, plus 450 anytime goal scorers available at FanDuel. You know, he's had a lot going on at the beginning of the season. Obviously, the back and forth with him in Vancouver and now going back to the New York Rangers. Now to kind of clear his head a little bit, Team USA, I think he gets a goal here in this first game. So give me JT Miller plus 450 tomorrow night. My bargain bin special in this Four Nations tournament.
All right, JT Miller. I think that is a really good choice for USA, plus 450 for Alex B. Smith with his bargain bin special of the night. My bargain bin special of the night, I am going to go to, I'm going to give you four bargain bin specials, one from each team. One, a Canadian, a Swede, an American, and a Finn. I'm going to give you one. I'm a man of all nations, as you know. So there you go. I'll give you four bargain bin specials, one from every country. Let's start Sweden, Canada. Let's start with the Sweden bargain bin. For me, it's Lucas Raymond, plus 375. I will take him as far as bargain bin special. Like his form, he's been revitalized in Detroit. I think that confidence carries over here into this tournament. So I will go with Lucas Raymond, plus 375 for Sweden for the first bargain bin special of the night. The second one from this game tonight for Canada, I'm going to my guy, Cale Makar, plus 440. He's been talked about, maybe shoot the puck more. They've been discussing that. He might get involved as far as getting his shot going more. We know he can pass. We know he can set things up for his teammates. But there is a little bit of a scuttlebutt going around that Canada might be looking at Cale Makar maybe shoot that puck more throughout this tournament. So plus 440 at FanDuel for Cale Makar to find the back of the net. So from tonight's game, Sweden-Canada, Lucas Raymonds for Sweden plus 375, Cale Makar for Canada plus 440 for bargain bin special of the night. And then for the two bargain bin specials for Thursday for USA and Finland, this was a bit of a tougher choice for me because there's a lot of good bargain bin candidates as far as I'm concerned for this game. Not that there isn't the first game, but I think there's even more for this game. I'm going to go with Arturi Lehkonen for Finland, plus 460. Played really well lately for the Colorado Avalanche. Plus 460, I think, is a really good price for Arturi Lehkonen for Finland. I will go with him for bargain bin special. I almost went with Barkov, but decided to go with Lehkonen at plus 460. And then for the United States for a bargain bin special of the night, again, lots of good choices on their side of the equation. But I am going to go with, especially considering, that he is going to be playing on, some opportunity here on the power play for the United States here. I'm going to go with a defenseman for them, Adam Fox, plus 550. Again, going to get that opportunity on the power play. I definitely think that's worth a look. So there you go. Lehkonen and Fox in the U.S.-Finland game for bargain bin special. Makar and Raymond in the Sweden-Canada game for bargain bin special of the night. There you go. One bargain bin special from each team for the next two nights. All right. Best bet here for this. Now, this can be, you can go with just one, Alex, or you can give a best bet for both games. It's up to you. What do you like here for best bet?
Let's just go with tonight's game. Canada, Sweden, over 6, minus 120, still available at BetMGM. I like goals here. He said, I think this is going to be more of a game where we see, hope you guys can still hear me, more of a game where we see an all-star kind of a feel. So I'm expecting a lot of scoring here. Over 6, minus 120 with Sweden and Canada tonight. That's my best bet.
All right, Sweden, Canada, over 6, minus 120 for Alex B. Smith with his best bet. My best bet here for this card, I like the over 2. I'm going to upset some fellow countrymen of mine. I'm going to use Sweden team total over 2.5, plus 110 as my bargain bit, or not my bargain, my best bet. We only need 3 goals out of them. Binnington, I'm going to have to see it before I'm ready to say, if it's 2019 Binnington and he makes 38 saves and shuts down Sweden and holds them to 1 goal, I'll tip my cap and say, job well done. But he has not had a great, season in the NHL. Sweden, I think, has as much firepower as I've seen them have in an international tournament in a while. We're only asking them to score 3. So Sweden team total over 2.5, plus 110. I think they give Canada a hell of a tough game tonight. And they do it by at least getting 3 goals. So Sweden team total over 2.5, plus 110 for my Wednesday best bet. And I will also give you a Thursday best bet for USA and Finland. And I will go with the U.S. team total over 3.5, minus 138. As of now, it's the only bet I've made, side or total in that game. I just think it's going to be a tall order for Finland with that lack of depth on the blue line to try to hang in there against this very strong 4-line attack that the U.S. is going to bring in this tournament. So USA team total over 3.5, minus 138 for my Thursday best bet. There you have it. That's a wrap for our first Four Nations Faceoff edition of the Ice Guys show. Hit the like button on the way out. Reminder, the Ice Guys is live every game day throughout the Four Nations Faceoff. And if you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday and a great rest of the week. We will see you again for our next Four Nations Face-Off edition of the Ice Guys Saturday at noon Eastern. We will be back with you then for another Four Nations Face-Off edition of the Ice Guys.